Alright YouTube, so we are just a couple of days away from the release of Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, something I'm very much looking forward to. Big fan of the Grand Theft Auto series, very influential on me in terms of gaming, something I've been playing for a very long time. All the way back as far as Grand Theft Auto 2. My friend down the road from me had that on his PlayStation 1. I used to go down to his house and play the shit out of that game. Back then, this game was just mind-blowing to me. I could not play this enough. And then eventually, of course, Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. There's a game I also didn't actually own back then. I didn't even have a PS2. A different friend had it. When I go over to my grandma's house, I'd go down to his house and play it. Could not play enough of that game either. The point of all this preamble is that, of course, this series just means a lot to me. But when it comes to the games that are coming out with the Definitive Edition, the one that's probably the most important to me is Vice City. This was the first one that I actually owned. I had a PS2, finally, and whenever this game came out, the year it came out, I got it for Christmas. I remember waking up Christmas morning, sick as fuck. I had the cold, flu, whatever it was. Did not matter, fought through it, just played this game all day long. I still have a vivid memory that day of watching this beginning sequence with Sonny Farrell and these guys talking with the guy hanging in the meat locker in the background. My nose being all stuffy, head being stuffy, barely keep my eyes open because I'm sick, but still fighting through it just to play this game. So I want to have this little beginning discussion to kind of get the point across of how much I love Vice City, how important it is to me before we get into what we're going to talk about, which I'm sure by now you've seen, because it's been talked about for a while now, is that they changed something when it comes to Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and it's really not even that big of a deal, which is why we're having this discussion, because it kind of goes both ways. Like, it's not a big deal, but it's so not a big deal to the point that why even change it? And it's that they changed Phil Cassidy's shirt, which used to have a Confederate flag on it. You can see in about the 34-second mark of the minute-long trailer we got last month, whenever Tommy Vercetti and Phil Cassidy are jumping away from an explosion, he no longer has the Confederate flag on his shirt. And this is a big deal for a lot of people because this is Rockstar censoring a Grand Theft Auto game, which is a series that is so against censoring it's ridiculous. Rockstar used to be the outlaws when it came to game development, right? They push the boundary all the time. With every GTA game, pretty much, they try to do something new and offensive, it seems like, and then, of course, with stuff like Bully and the Manhunt games, like, they're always pushing boundaries, or at least they used to be. And this is kind of separate from the discussion we're having in this video about this shirt specifically, but it kind of makes you wonder going forward with something like Grand Theft Auto 6, whenever, if ever, that game comes out. Like, the fact that they'd go through the effort of censoring something like this, in the grand scheme of things, is really so small, it makes you wonder, like, what creative decisions would be held back because they don't want to be too offensive in the next Grand Theft Auto game, if that makes any sense. Now, when it comes to this specific situation, them editing this shirt for the re-release of Grand Theft Auto Vice City, I'm not offended by it. Like, I'm not over here like, I'm not going to buy this game, or, oh, no, they're bending the knee to SJWs and cancel culture and all this other bullshit. Like, I'm not on that boat. My biggest complaint here is editing history. This game came out 19 years ago, October 29, 2002, so it's over 19 years old. They've ported this game so many times, right, to the PS3, PS4, mobile device, all this other shit. They've had ample opportunity to edit this out, and they're only just now doing it because the modern interpretation of this Confederate flag is offensive. This game came out in an era where that wasn't the case, or at least not widely interpreted that way, to where it's banned, obviously, pretty much everywhere. And also, the game is taking place in an era where that wasn't the case, the 80s, right? In the context of when this game actually released IRL for us to play, but also the setting of the game, it should be perfectly okay. A good example of what I'm trying to get across here is when it comes to like Disney and Warner Brothers, they have these warnings for older cartoons that were offensive. I want to read it really quick. And it says, "The cartoons you are about to see are products of their time. They may depict some of the ethnic and racial prejudices that were commonplace in American society. These depictions were wrong then and are wrong today. While the following does not represent the Warner Bros. View of today's society, these cartoons are being presented as they were originally created, because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed." Now, this isn't a one-to-one example. It's not the perfect example for what I'm trying to talk about here, but it's a decent example of what I'm trying to get across of you can't just edit shit out of history, because it's there. Like, regardless of whether you want to take it out of this newer version of Vice City, there's still the PS3, PS4 version, PS2 version that still has this stuff in it. Hell, whenever I was capturing this gameplay on my PS4 and I was going through like the load screen at the beginning of the game, it actually gave me this image of Phil Cassidy, ironically enough, and of course, it still has the Confederate flag on it. You can buy this game right now. Like, are you going to go back to these other versions of Grand Theft Auto Vice City and edit the Confederate flag out of Phil Cassidy's character model? No, of course not. So why are you doing it for the newer version? That's what doesn't make sense to me. Like, you're going to take the PS4 version of Vice City off the PlayStation Network because of offensive t-shirt? Of course not. So again, why make the change at all? And the editing of this t-shirt has brought on an interesting conversation because of how, small this is in the grand scheme of things. It makes you wonder what else could be potentially changed in the trilogy. Anything else that's offensive, right? Because, again, this is just a Confederate flag on a t-shirt of a character that's just a part of the game, a small part. You get some missions with them, you see them a handful of times throughout the game, that's kind of it, right? It makes you wonder if they've changed anything else when it comes to the game. Like, have they edited out any offensive dialogue, potentially from characters, maybe stuff you hear on the radio, or just entire missions that may be deemed offensive? And this can go for also Grand Theft Auto 3 and San Andreas. Like, we don't know what else has been changed through any of these games. The crazy thing to me, too, about this is that obviously this was edited out of Vice City because it's offensive, because it's deemed as a racist symbol these days. When there's still, other offensive things throughout Rockstar games, namely the torture scene from GTA 5 that's deemed as one of the most offensive things in the entire series, but you could buy and play Grand Theft Auto 5 right now, and that torture scene is still in the game. And moving out of the Grand Theft Auto series, you have something like Manhunt, which you can still buy today, right now, on your PS4, probably PS3 as well. Go on the PlayStation Network, you can buy and play Manhunt, which is deemed as one of the most offensive games of all time, one of the most controversial games of all time. It's banned in several countries, and probably still is, but you can still buy it. And I would say that the Manhunt series as a whole and the torture scene in GTA 5 are objectively more offensive than this goddamn t-shirt. And I'm not saying I want those things changed or edited. I don't want them to take the torture scene out of GTA 5. I don't want them to take Manhunt off the PlayStation Network, but we're talking from an objective perspective, not subjective. Those are vastly more offensive. And like I said, I've been with the GTA series and Rockstar forever, for 20 plus years of my life. The majority of my life I've been playing these games. I've been with them through all their different controversies. This isn't even the first time something's been changed in Vice City. They edited something back in the day because people deemed killing Cubans and Haitians racist or something. I don't know. They've edited this game before. I've been here from the beginning of Vice City's inception. And I've never heard anybody ever complain about Phil Cassidy's shirt. Because again, it's so fucking pointless. And so ultimately the thing here is nobody cared for this, nobody wanted this, nobody asked for this. Like, these games have been available forever. You can get Vice City on a plethora of different platforms. And the Confederate flag has been deemed racist for at least several years now and been banned in a lot of different ways. And nobody's asked for this and nobody wanted this. It's just strange, man. I don't know. And this is a series that likes to parody stuff, likes to satire stuff, and I feel like leaving the Confederate flag on its character model would be a satirization of those kinds of people, right? Which is probably what the point of his design was initially. He's a gun owner, he's a pseudo-paramilitary guy, claims he's in the military, but he actually wasn't, which you find out in Vice City. Like, he can be a parody of those kinds of people, the people that would wear a goddamn Confederate flag t-shirt. But as a dude, that is pretty much the video. I just want to give my thoughts on this, voice my opinion before the definitive edition comes out. Again, I'm not offended by them editing this specifically as in, like, I'm a defender of the Confederate flag. I'm offended by the act itself. Like, why go back and edit the game at all? And the funny thing about the entire situation is if they never edited this t-shirt, there never would have been a controversy because nobody's complained this entire time. But because they went through the effort of editing that shit, it created its own controversy. But of course, it's a discussion. I want to pass off to you guys. What are your thoughts on them editing the Confederate flag out of Grand Theft Auto Vice City? Again, I couldn't give a shit. I don't give a fuck about the Confederate flag. I don't own a single thing. I don't think I've ever owned a single thing with the Confederate flag on it because I've never cared for that shit. Either way, my dudes, that is the video. My social networks are in the description. Follow me on Twitter at dashingdavidYT. That's it. Bye. And ultimately, Phil Cassidy is a joke character. This fake military dude, he's a drunk piece of shit. He blows his fucking arm off in Vice City. Leave the Confederate flag on him.
To conclusions, all the things that we thought we were losing. I'm a ghost and you know this. That's why we broke up in the first place. 'Cause I want you.